The Jaylen Brown stuff just refuses to die, and there's one thing that I wish people would understand about what's going on this time of year.
Rain and J's, how we started raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. Peace.
Hey there, welcome back to the show. I'm John Karalis. Yeah, the Jaylen Brown stuff is driving me crazy, and so I'm going to get to that later on in the third segment. As far as the thing I wish people would understand, maybe a lot of you do. Maybe I'll get to that in the third segment. I'll get to the Jaylen Brown stuff, the specific stuff, in the second segment. But I want to start with the NBA Finals because this podcast is later than it would normally be in a time where things are very quiet for the Celtics, because I stayed up and watched the first game of the NBA Finals where the Knicks beat the San Antonio Spurs by 10. It was a really great game that featured some wild swings, some kind of confusing things, and some expected things. So, first of all, number one, very impressed by the New York Knicks. I'm hoping that a lot of you watch this. There are tons of NBA things that are out there. Maybe I'm saving you a click. We can talk about the NBA Finals for one segment. And if you want to continue that, you can go to Locked On NBA. There are multiple versions of the Locked On NBA podcast that you can go listen to that will have more in-depth stuff. But impressed that the Knicks came out, and it was tough for the Knicks. 19 points in the first quarter, kind of like a interesting reversal where the Spurs outscored the Knicks 27-19 in the first, and then the Knicks outscored the Spurs 29-19 in the fourth. But the Knicks weathered the storm. They lost the non-Wembanyama minutes early, but figured things out later in the third quarter. Karl-Anthony Towns in the third quarter. I'm not the biggest Karl-Anthony Towns fan in the world. I mean, obviously he's really good. I find his kind of like antics and histrionics on the court annoying, but obviously a really good player, and he was great. He was great in the third quarter, especially. He took Victor Wembanyama off the dribble pretty easily. That's a problem for the defensive player of the year. Like that, and a guy that people will say is going to be the defensive player of the year until he turns, 35 or whatever. Unless he doesn't qualify, that award belongs to him for however long he's playing for the most part. Except Karl-Anthony Towns beat him off the dribble a bunch and was able to score and do a great job, especially in that third quarter, and was very effective. Karl-Anthony Towns changed a lot of this game in that third quarter, where the Knicks won it by 7 and were able to kind of get back into this game after a 14-point Spurs lead. Obviously, Jalen Brunson was awesome down the stretch. Just incredible. The dude, if you appreciate and enjoyed what Isaiah Thomas did in his years in Boston, you have to appreciate what Jalen Brunson is doing for the Knicks. I know he's doing it for the Knicks, and a lot of Celtics fans, they don't want to see it. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to believe in it or whatever. But give the guy his due. And if anything, we can point and laugh at the Dallas Mavericks for all of their just complete missteps over the years, trading away Luka, not paying Jalen Brunson. They're just mistakes after mistakes after mistakes. If we want to laugh at a team, this is a great opportunity to do that. Jalen Brunson, huge down the stretch. He finished the game with 30 points. After a knee injury, after an ankle injury, after whatever, he just keeps on coming. Josh Hart, a plus 22. He shot 1 of 5 and scored 3 points, was a plus 22. He had 15 rebounds. For the Spurs, I feel like the game 2 is going to be so different than game 1. So you hear a lot of people talk about you cannot overreact to game 1s in a series. This one especially does not tell us any great detail of what the full story of this series is going to be. The Spurs got beaten by 9 in second chance points. They gave up 50 points in the paint. They turned the ball over 13 times for 19 points. They couldn't hit shots. They were 11 of 43 from 3. The Knicks were 11 of 36. So one of those things has to break. They couldn't hit shots in the paint. They missed a ton of opportunities. They got beaten 23-14 in second chance points, but they had 4 more offensive rebounds than the Knicks. So lots of missed layups, lots of missed shots. Wembanyama on offense was mostly bad in this game, and he said so after the game. So that, I think defensively, he had somewhat of an impact at the rim, but again, getting crushed by Karl-Anthony Towns. So Wemby -3 in this game. It was just a bad shooting night, a bad Wemby night, maybe a bad coaching night because Dylan Harper has to play. He has to play down the stretch. It's an interesting kind of dynamic for the Spurs in the fourth quarters. What they're going to do with Dylan Harper, that fourth quarter not having him on the floor was only 3.5 minutes. That can't happen, especially on a night where De'Aaron Fox just didn't seem to have it. He made a couple of really nice plays, but overall, you gotta. I know he's a rookie, but you gotta get Dylan Harper in there. So I feel like there's a lot that the Spurs can do. If you're rooting for the Spurs, if you're doing the thing that I said on Sports Illustrated, on SI.com, where Celtics fans should be rooting for the Spurs, Sean Grandy had an interesting stat. The last 3 teams to win a game 1 on the road all lost the series. The game 1 to game 2 difference is going to be, I think, it's going to be huge. I think San Antonio can settle into this series. The one thing that I'm going to count on here is that the Spurs were down 3-2 to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I know the Thunder were hurt, but the Spurs were down 3-2 and found the poise to come back and win that series. I think they can do the same thing here. I thought they started off playing sped up. They're a fast team. They can play fast, but they were sped up early. I think it was nerves. So I still believe in the Spurs. I picked Spurs in 7 on Locked On NBA on the Wednesday show. So I still think Spurs in 7. So if they can fix a lot of the shooting stuff, the stuff at the rim, let's be honest here. 105 points, holding the Knicks to 105 points, the defense, and that's with Wemby not being great all around. That's with giving up 10 offensive rebounds and 23 second chance points. That's with just turning the ball over a bunch and giving them transition opportunities. They still held the Knicks to 105 points. So the defense wasn't ideal, and I still think they can hold the Knicks in this range. That's good. That's good. The Spurs need to fix their offense. They need to get Victor Wembanyama some good shots. He missed a lot of shots because I think he was credit Karl-Anthony Towns for the defense that he played. I thought Cat had a really, really good game. And the Spurs challenge has to be get Wembanyama free around the rim. One stat that really kind of blew my mind is Wemby was 3 of 5 in the restricted area. Karl-Anthony Towns was 7 of 11. Cat had 2 more makes than Wembanyama had attempts in the restricted area. That is not good. You cannot have that. So I think you have to you just have to figure out the Wemby stuff. You have to give give the Knicks credit, but offensively, I think the Knicks, if they are able to, if offensively, if the Spurs are able to get on track, hit some shots, make some layups, get Wemby going, I think they can win game 2 pretty easily, and they'll be okay. So I'm looking forward to game 2. I'll do this whenever they play. I'll spend a segment talking about the NBA Finals because I think we're all interested in the NBA Finals. All right, Jaylen Brown rumors are still a thing. They're just going to be, and we got to wrap our heads around it. We'll get into some of the specifics when we come back here on the Locked On Celtics podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. We're here deep in the NBA Finals, right? Game 1 is here, and right now, new customers, you get a chance to bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. So FanDuel during the playoffs has been great because everything you need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before you making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. I know I'm going to be looking at the Spurs coming back and winning game 2. I think they're going to win game 2, and we'll see how the lines move as maybe news about Jalen Brunson's injuries kind of does anything stiffen up? Does he show up on the injury report? Probably not, but we'll see how that impacts things over at FanDuel. The app is really easy to navigate, so if you're checking out stuff for the NBA Finals, the app can make things more engaging from start to finish. Head on over to FanDuel.com to get started. When you do that, they will ask you to set a limit, set a budget. Do that. Only bet what you can afford to lose. This way, if you set that limit there, FanDuel will help you gamble responsibly. Go to FanDuel.com, set up an account, get started. FanDuel, play your game. Today's show also brought to you by DoorDash. We got the finals heating up. DoorDash is a way to keep fans in your bag all season long. So whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag, and with DoorDash, you have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. This is a late night. If you're a Spurs fan, maybe you want to send over some post-game therapy, or if you're a Knicks fan, you want to have a little celebration right now, go for it. Get that delivered, whatever you're looking for. Maybe you're looking for some chips. Maybe the group chat is looking for you to pull up for game 2 watch party, and you want to show up prepared with snacks, cups. Maybe you even pick up a phone charger, but have that dropped off at your door for that friend who's always at 2%. So from tip off to overtime, stay in your bag and order on DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever gets you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Thanks for being here Monday through Friday, plus bonus podcasts whenever there is an opportunity to talk more about the Celtics. I'll do that. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Sports Illustrated's Celtics on SI. I have been covering the team for about 20 years now. I've been doing this podcast for 10. Looking forward to some 10-year Locked On celebrations coming up. So that's going to be a lot of fun as the network turns 10. So lots of fun there. Thank you for subscribing and being an everydayer. So the Jaylen Brown stuff continues. It persists. Listen, I know I get worked up about stuff because I'm sick of stuff that just is floating out there and gets picked up and amplified when it shouldn't. But it happens. So I feel like my job is to kind of address it and let you know you're here. You're a hardcore fan. You want to know what's real and what's not. This is not a clickbait show. This is not I want clicks. I want clicks, but I want clicks for the right reason, right? So I'm not going to trick people into clicking or try not to. So the latest Jaylen Brown stuff It comes from Shamit Dua, who covers the Pelicans, who says, quote, "To my understanding, there's been no discussion between Boston and New Orleans on Jaylen Brown as this moment." He also says, "I don't believe the Pelicans have plans to mortgage their future in terms of significant draft capital in any moves." So I think what ends up happening here is, Bill Simmons says, yeah, we assume that Trey Murphy is going to get traded and the Celtics could be one of the teams. And so that pops up. And Jaylen gets thrown into these rumors because you have to start looking at, okay, how do the numbers work? How do you make this work? What are the Pelicans trying to do? And I did all this yesterday. What are the Pelicans trying to do? If you're trading Trey Murphy, why would you trade Trey Murphy? Like, you got to ask these questions, not just be like, oh my God, I'd love that guy. Which, again, you're a fan. You of course, you look at that and be like, I'd love that guy. Of course, he's great. He's a good player. But part of my job is, if this is possible, if somebody's floating this out there, let's explore these possibilities. They're not just going to trade Trey Murphy. So let's just pretend they want to get Jaylen Brown. Well, the money doesn't match. So what do you want to do? Let's try to get Jaylen Brown, but we also want to dump salary. You can't dump salary. Well, the Celtics are going to want one of your other good players too. It can't, like I said yesterday, it can't be Herb Jones because he doesn't make enough money. Is it going to be DeJounte Murray? They're going to be like, well, no, we don't want to give up both Murray and, well, what are we doing here? Like we're giving up two really good players and we're getting one great player, but why don't we just keep the two that we have? And as you start to go back and forth, you say, okay, now it makes sense that the Pelicans and the Celtics haven't had any talks. I don't think they've had any substantive talks. Again, some of this is repeating myself, and I apologize for that, but I know not everybody listens every day. So the conversations happen with every team. I could legitimately sit here and say the Celtics, and pick a team name out of a hat, the Denver Nuggets, have had conversations about a trade. Because at some point during the season, the Celtics and the Nuggets have had conversations about, what are you trying to do? What are you looking for? What are you trying to accomplish? This is why I know a lot of teams are going to be calling the Celtics, because the Bill Chisholm element is the unknown. Teams are going to call the Celtics to say, hey man, hey Brad, or whomever else they're calling. Hey Brad, what's Bill Chisholm making you do? It's one of those guys that have a similar job. I'm gonna call him up and see if I can get him to complain about his boss at all, right? Because if his boss is putting some pressure on him, maybe I can get him to spill something and we can get to some trade talks. We can get to some real trade talks. So yeah, the Pelicans, Joe Dumars calling Brad Stevens saying, so what's Bill Chisholm going to make you do? You guys want to stay under the tax. How badly do you want to stay under the tax? What are you trying to accomplish here? And Brad can be like, yeah, we're trying to do X, Y, and Z. And that's something, whatever his response is. And then you have that catalyst, right? That conversation. You don't think the Denver Nuggets want to get a look at Derrick White? Derrick White coming home to Colorado. That's the team I think he grew up rooting for. Why not? Let's see. Maybe they don't want to pay certain guys. They've got decisions to make. Let's just call Brad up. Let's just see. Let's take the temperature of the room. That happens all the time. Pick a team. You can probably go on Twitter and say, the Boston Celtics and this pick a team have had conversations this season about a potential trade. Because every conversation is about a potential trade. So the Pelicans are going to call about Jaylen and say, what are you trying to do? Right. And then you get things. So because of that, because of all of that, you get conversations on shows like this where someone like Jake Fisher, who's a good reporter and does his due diligence, and he goes on a stream, does a live stream, and says, Atlanta is Jaylen Brown's hometown. I think that's a spot that he would potentially have interest in going to. And all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, oh, Jaylen to Atlanta. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then you see a headline that says, Jaylen Brown lists $5 million Boston penthouse for sale amid trade rumors. And then people start to go, oh. This is where I have a real problem. I'm going to talk about that when I come back, because I have a real problem. And this folds in some continued Giannis stuff that is a new piece is out there that I'll fold it all in. I have a real problem with how this stuff is not reported initially, aggregated and amplified. That's coming up next. Today's show is brought to you by Kalshi. You have the NBA Finals here. It's really can go either way in Game 2. On Kalshi, you can trade every single playoff game, every single Finals game, up until this, every series. You can do any other sport, anything really. The NBA Finals, the way it works, let me explain how it works, first of all. You're trading against your peers. It's a live market. There's no house. You're not trading against Kalshi. You're trading against your peers, other people. So as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. So let's just look at San Antonio. Right now, you get in on San Antonio. They're at 67% to win Game 2. And that, if you put down 100, would pay out 150. So if that changes and it goes up, you can trade out of that. You can sell your position like a stock market. You can sell your position and make money on that as before the game starts. So you don't have to stay with it to the end of the game. So that's how Kalshi is how they operate. Right now, you can download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON. You get $10 when you trade 10. That's Kalshi, Kalshi. So you can trade at Kalshi on anything. So go check it out. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risks and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, please see kalshi.com/regulatory. Today's show is also brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos. Deadlines are stacking up. Inboxes are overflowing. The one position you have open is still there taunting you, and the pressure is on. Are you going to be Jalen Brunson, or are you going to fold under pressure? This is a job for Indeed-sponsored jobs. They're going to help you come through in the clutch because they're going to help you find the candidate that you're looking for with the skills that you're looking for. Every box that you're trying to check, skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. In this minute that I'm talking to you, companies like yours will make 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, spend more time actually interviewing the candidates who check all of your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Save yourself the stress, the time, and get more results. You'll be the hero. So check it out. Listeners of the show, you get $75 in sponsored job credits to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Help the show out by saying you heard about us there. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. You are here and getting your fix on a daily basis. Now go ad-free by joining the Everydayer Club today. Start your 7-day free trial right now and get closer to your team without the interruptions. Click the link in the show notes or go to LockedOnCeltics.com to claim your free 7-day trial. So the Giannis Antetokounmpo rumors persist because The Athletic put out a piece that said, well, the Celtics situation intrigues Giannis. Okay, sure. It intrigues Giannis. That's great. And so people are like, oh, well, Boston's a possibility. How? How is that still a possibility? Because Giannis is intrigued? Okay. How does that change any of the stuff that we've talked about? How has that changed any of Boston's interest? How has that changed any of what can be traded back and forth? This is not the same situation that we've seen in the past where Giannis is going to be like, you know what? I'm out. Peace. And the Celtics are going to be like, yeah, we're going to give you scraps to match money, but and throw you a bunch of picks, but we're not going to give you anything of real value because we know we have all of the leverage. No, that The Athletic, a very excellent outlet with excellent reporters, wrote a story, just like Jake Fisher in his report said in his live stream said Atlanta is Jaylen Brown's hometown. But then he says, I think that's a spot he would potentially have interest in going to. He didn't say they've talked. He didn't say anything is happening between Atlanta and Boston. He just said Atlanta is one of the teams that should be keeping an eye on because it's Jaylen Brown's hometown, and I think that's a spot he would potentially have interest in going to. It's nothing that any reporter wouldn't say in a live stream when you're talking about, hey, listen, if we're going to look at Jaylen Brown and his possibilities, here are possibilities. Here are things that I think if we're going to start speculating, here's a way to go. Fine. That's fine. It's all fine. But what ends up happening there and what drives me nuts is headline. Fourth team shows up. New team shows up in Jaylen Brown rumors. It's not a rumor. There's no substance to it. It's just a person who has a job that, yes, like I have a job that's connected. I say things, and sometimes I say things and I get aggregated. I'm like, really? That made a headline somewhere? That's crazy to me. It just blows my mind because I didn't say anything. It's just an opinion. But and listen, I appreciate the fact that I have a job. I've done a job long enough and have gained a reputation to a point where that can happen. Like, I do appreciate that, but we have to be discerning. And I'm willing to bet that most of you are. I think most of you get it, but it's hard. Listen, you're busy. You're going through your day. Your boss is on your case. You're probably like upset. You got into a fight with your significant other. You got to go pick up the kids from wherever they are. It's just a crazy day. And your phone goes ding, and you pick it up and it goes, oh, Jaylen Brown, Atlanta Hawks. And you go, what? And you don't have the time to click and do all of the things. It's very much like The Good Place where you don't have all the time to do your research about tomatoes. And all of a sudden you buy a tomato and you lose points because you thought you were doing something good, but you don't really get the full unintended consequences. You click on something and you think you get it, but you don't because you don't get that's just Jake Fisher kind of just throwing a guess out there, which of course he does. That's exactly. I mean, this is not a Jake Fisher thing. Like he's doing a great job reporting and he's just expressing an opinion, but it's the next level. Look, I was a blogger too, man. I started redsarmy.com. I know what it's like to go out there and, scan the internet and be like, oh, this could make a good headline. And I want to get some clicks and I want to get some money. I got to make some money. But we have to be discerning about this stuff. That's what blows my mind. The headline that really bugs me, Jaylen Brown lists $5 million Boston penthouse for sale amid trade rumors, is blatantly misleading. It's blatantly misleading because he doesn't live there anymore. He's been out of that place for a while. He tried to sell it a year ago or 2 years ago. But now you're conflating the trade. It's not even, first of all, it's not even trade rumors. It's trade speculation. And by connecting Jaylen selling his penthouse, where everybody's talking about this and he's selling his penthouse. He doesn't live stream from his penthouse. He lives somewhere else. But people don't want to pay attention to that stuff. Fine. You don't want to pay attention to it. That's fine. But know what you're talking about when you write these headlines. This stuff gets out there. So Giannis is intrigued by Boston. Yeah, sure. Giannis is intrigued by Boston. Great. Intrigued? Open to it? Great. Doesn't change anything about that situation. Doesn't change a thing about what I've been talking about. So I only ask you, who I know you're discerning. I know you just, I hope you can understand. I hope you can start picking out like the little things, the little words that people use. I will use personally. I will use things to couch what I'm saying, because I've said stuff like this too. Yeah, we can speculate. Part of my job in this conversation, I'm sitting here talking for 32 minutes now. Some of it is speculation. You wonder. We wonder about things. Jaylen Brown, I openly wonder about what next summer, the summer of 2027, is going to look like. Because my belief is the Celtics are going to tinker around the edges, add a scorer, spend some significant money around the scorer, to add a scorer, then make a trade. My speculation is that Sam Hauser is going to get traded at some point because it makes sense. My speculation is that they're going to try to add a second person at some point, and that they should wait until the season. They should take some of this into the season to see how it works and then finish the job, right? This is the equivalent of making, baking a pie or something, like cooking something, and you're starting the process now, and you're going to put it in the oven, and you want to see what happens, or you're going to put it on the stove, not even baking a pie. I'm going to say making like a stew, a gumbo, and you're cooking it. And along the way, you got to taste. You're like, okay, I've got these ingredients. I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to low simmer, low and slow, baby. We're going to let it cook for a while. So you take that into the regular season. You start tasting it. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see if we can draw some more flavor out of this stock. And then you go along a little bit more and you're like, okay, you know what? No, I need to add something. And then you still have time to add something because it's not done cooking yet. You have a long time. This is a low and slow process for the Celtics. This is my opinion. The Celtics could blow all of this out of the water tomorrow. If somebody wants to write about my opinion, that's fine. But frame it as my opinion, right? If you value my opinion so greatly that you want to write about it, trust me, I'm flattered by that. It blows my mind that you want to do it. I'm flattered by it. If you want to write about it, and if you think that headline gets you clicks, then by all means, more power to you, buddy. But it's my speculation. It's my opinion. I'm not reporting. If I'm reporting something, you'll know how I phrase it. Jake Fisher, same thing. If he's reporting something, you know, because that's how he phrases it. Sources tell me blah, 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 blah. This is speculation. Giannis intrigued. That was all speculation. I forget who on The Athletic wrote it. That entire thing, I read that whole thing. It's all speculation. Giannis could be open to it and should be open to it, has expressed some of this and expressed some of that. And yeah, it's all like, you're throwing a Boston thing in there because we're going to explore that possibility. But the aggregation, just to be purposefully, like, I know you're supposed to hold off a little information. Like, I get the concept. I know how I title my own podcasts. You want to get people to be like, oh, I'm interested in this. Just enough has been withheld. Like, all right, I'll click. Let's see what you got. Once you're in the door, I can't be like, gotcha. Like Dark Helmet, fooled you. Like, I can't do that. I want you to be like satisfied with the product that you're getting. It blows me away how many people just do not get that concept when they're aggregating things. And so I suppose I should be happy because it gives me something to talk about, because there's no real new Jaylen rumor other than a reporter saying, to the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any conversation between the Celtics and New Orleans. You know what? To be honest, my opinion, my speculation, this is not going to be. It's not, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. In the grand scheme of things, taking everything into account, taking all the CBA stuff into account, doesn't make sense. We can talk through it here, but it doesn't make sense. So I'm happy to talk through whatever you want. You want to submit something to me and ask me a question in the mailbag, you can do that. You can submit questions to me at johnkaralis.com/mailbag. I'll answer those questions here on the podcast. I will do bonus podcasts to get you more mailbag answers if you have questions. And I do have some that have come in, so there will be a new one coming out soon. So that's my rant right now. That'll do it for the show. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the NBA Finals Game 1. Again, I'll talk about that stuff when, on a podcast, when I'm doing a podcast, and if they're playing, I'll add that to the mix. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here on a Monday through Friday basis, being an everydayer. Now, please share the podcast. Tell everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.